Everyone, Om Shanti, welcome, good evening, Shalom, Salam Alaikum, all the wonderful ways that we greet each other, but maybe the best greeting of all is just the greeting of love through the eyes. Hi everyone. How often did you look at yourself today and give yourself so much love, unconditional love? Actually, I didn't today, but it came up just now. It's so important to do that, though. Um, I've been sitting here for a while, and as I kind of looked into the screen, I was looking at the soul that's inside of the body of Jenna, and I was asking her, "How are you? Are you okay?" And I just got those moments where I just looked into her eyes, and I go, "What's your legacy? What's been your travels? What's been your journey? What are some of the things that you're still holding on to that you really need to let go? What's creating your aches, your pains, your illnesses, your victories, your glory, your shortcomings, your bests?" You know, all of that is happening from the soul. Interesting, isn't it? So to what extent I know some of you take selfies. That's one thing I don't like, is a selfie. I think since a smartphone has been invented, maybe I've done 7 selfies my whole life. I'm pretty sure. And you notice how explicit I am, 7, because I wasn't sure if I could say a handful, which would be 5, but I'm pretty sure it's not more than 7. You know, one of those. I've just not been able to find my youthfulness to do it as yet. But maybe perhaps because I'm generally always with people, so I get a chance for pictures to be taken. Tonight's discussion is about overcoming weaknesses, and I had a wonderful visit by a very old friend and student that's been with us for many, many years, and we were just casually talking about the weaknesses of the soul and how sometimes when you're getting sort of a correction, you're either going to be strong in the midst of the correction, or perhaps when the correction was coming, you were in a state of some attachment to an illusion that you held for yourself, which we would call a weakness. And we talked about it, and I was telling her about my particular journey, where it's what's interesting for me to receive a lot of different various forms of corrections on my spiritual journey. But for some reason, something in my heart was, but I'm here for God, you know? I'm here to serve, and whatever I need to be told, then, and I have to tell you, it hurt like anything. It hurt like amazing. I mean, it was tough. But it was only tough because I just didn't have enough wisdom about my strengths and my weaknesses. I didn't have enough wisdom about the energy of space that I had been gifted with. I didn't have enough wisdom about the time. But there was nothing wrong with me. But that took me a long time to overcome. And there was nothing wrong with them. And that took me some time to really figure things out. Everything was the way it was inscripted. And you've heard me say this to you before, that if we look at everything as a script that's been preordained and we're mere actors playing our part in it, then you recognize that there's no need for blame or criticism or disappointment or hurt from anybody. It's just what it is. So when we look at a weakness, I think where we start is, I was thinking about this a lot today. I was saying, what are my weaknesses? And some of them I know, and some of them I have no idea. But for some reason, the universe or the drama will send someone to tell me what that is. And it will come up in a way like I'm not prepared for it, but they'll like, "Oh, you're like this." And I'm like, "No, I'm not." So it's like, what I've noticed is when you get critiqued, there's a desire in people to see you in a different way, or there's a desire in people for them to be in your way. It's a very interesting process. And we have to come to a point of understanding what are the innate natural strengths of the soul. And you've heard me over and over again mention love and purity and peace and power, and they are not small things. It is not a small thing to love your enemy. It's not a small thing to love someone that gave you suffering intentionally, but you love them back. It's not a small thing to love your partner, your spouse, your child, your country, your religion. That's different from you, and yet you're in it. You know, you could be in a marriage and you find out that your spouse is a completely different person than what you married, and there is still love there. So love is not a small thing. And you've heard me talk about it a lot. And we're definitely moving in an age where love will be needed more than ever before. So let's look at what weakness is. When I look at it from my perspective, there are a few facets to it. But they are acquired traits. They are an acquired sense of yourself. They aren't the real you. Your weaknesses, it's not the real you. There's a story about a Buddhist monk that was learning, and the master would give him a particular duty, and he gave him one to build a wall. And please don't think about the walls that we've been hearing about for the last 3 years. Not that kind of wall. Anyway, he put about 99 bricks perfectly straight in his wall. But there was one brick that was crooked. So the master had to come by to look at his wall to see how wonderful it was. And when the master came to look at the wall, he goes, "It's the best wall I've seen. It's perfect." And the little Buddhist monk looked at the master and says, "What's wrong with you? Don't you see? That brick is crooked." He laid 99 bricks perfect, but one brick deleted his 99 perfectly laid bricks. That's what a weakness does, you know. It's something in you that you're interpreting is crooked. Why? Maybe you heard your mother tell you when you were young, your father, your uncle, your grandmother, kids at school. Maybe you looked at the front cover of magazines and saw what they claim is a version of beauty and perfection. And you looked in the mirror and you go, "I look nothing like those men or those women." Maybe it's a movie that you saw that depicted what it meant to be a brave hero, or what it meant to be wealthy and arrived, and what it meant to be beautiful, what it meant to have the perfect family. Maybe all these things that have given us some sort of a definition of what we would deem the perfect, the good thing. And then we look inside of ourselves and we say, "But I don't match up to that." And then we start to feel a little less than, you know? And when we start to feel a little bit less than because we don't match up at the human dimension, that human level, instead of working on building the internal beauty and power, we sometimes go maybe to the extreme. Some of us will go and get augmentations, you know, we will shift around things to make them look better. Some of us will dress in particular ways that can grab attention. Some of us can take out a lot of our emotions and our discontentment and a lack in food, in alcohol, in drugs, in relationships. Something I did in my younger days, I was a workaholic. I just never knew. Well, that's not true. I had my moments of pause, but I was not lazy. I'm not a lazy person. I don't have that personality. But there's some of us that have that as well. But when we start to define something wrong with us based on external images, narratives, interpretations, they can confuse you. Because your weaknesses aren't necessarily just about physical things. It's actually more coming from the base of your complete history of experiences that are living in you, in the soul. What we call the sanskaras in the soul. Some people might say, oh, I have a soul. And I go, no, you have a body, but you are a soul. There's a big difference. You have a car, but you're not the car. So I have a body, but I am a soul. And the soul is carrying lots of experiences. Example, those of you that watch Spiritual Vaccine Hour almost every night, you're gaining an experience. And that experience is creating a very deep impression. And the impression is of a spiritual evolving. So you wouldn't say that's a weakness, but you'll say that the more you're evolving, it is taking care of issues that perhaps you weren't able to take care of on your own. Okay? So when you define weakness at an external level, that's just a tip. Like an iceberg, you only see 10% of the iceberg on the top, but underneath the iceberg is 80% of that iceberg, and that's the depth of who you are. So a weakness is when the soul, as the energy, over a long period of time, and I would like to share with you for many births, has perpetuated the same intentional choice without giving it much thought anymore. It's sort of like it deepens that impression until the weakness becomes almost natural. Have you had an argument with somebody? I remember once there was a sister with me and I was just trying to give her another way of looking at something, and she said to me, well, it's my karma, no? So you just might as well leave me alone. And that was a moment in time that gave me a huge realization. And I said to myself, yes, it is her karma. And yes, I do have to leave her alone. But for her to have said that, that was the strength of the weakness that was speaking, but it wasn't her, the real soul, the real person. And it was that energy that we all feed over and over and over again, that the weakness functions automatically without any support from ourselves. It just comes out automatically. And when we get a little bit of a shock treatment, is when we're called out on it. Who was telling me a story today? A friend of mine was telling me a story. They were having meetings with their board of directors, and there was somebody on the board who's been really not very nice, and they've been really giving them a hard time. And the person that's also on the board just said something that I just think that, you know, this is what the deal is. And the guy got so angry that he became, you know, belligerent. And I think what happened was that she touched his truth. And so what happens, if you check yourself, when somebody says something about you and it really gets you, they're touching a truth, because The energy of the nature was so natural in you, you didn't even see it. But there's always somebody who comes along and kind of calls it out. Maybe your parents or your friends have been signaling to you, but then maybe also we actually need somebody who we might not consider a friend or somebody very close that might call something out. When I was in India, two wonderful men that I just adore them, and they're in filmmaking. And they sat with me while I was there to have a discussion. And there was one of them that tends to sometimes, he will just open up a conversation talking about someone. Now, everybody who knows me knows I'm the only person you never come to with a gossip. That's not in my nature. Like, I just won't gossip about people. And everybody knows that. I suffered for a long time by an energy that I felt really was very unkind to me, and not a single person knew. I kept it so quiet because I felt it was between me, my karma, and that I would somehow work my way through this emotionally to sort it through. I'm not saying that's what everyone should do, but that's just been my way. In other words, I don't go looking for pillars and supports to create tribes to go against people. So I told him that, I just want you to know, and I just think you're so awesome, but you have to reduce this nature of kind of gossiping a lot about people. And he was like, what? I don't gossip about people. And I said, I think you do. I mean, I think you're so wonderful, and I just feel like there's more stories you can tell rather than stories of other people. So 2 days later, he calls me on the phone. And he says, can I tell you that I just want to say thanks? His partner was telling him that he should reduce that energy, but nobody else had the courage to tell him to do so, except when I did. So sometimes people on the outside will call you on your weakness because you can't see it. And how do you know that the weakness is there? It's when they call you on that weakness and it disturbs your peace. It shakes you. It shakes your world. You lose it. You become upset. You become angry. Because what they're doing is, when they put a spotlight onto where the drainage of your spiritual power is coming from, it sort of wakes up all the gunk. What do you call it, Santosh, when you put a light in and all the little bugs come out? I forgot what you call it, but you put a light on them and yeah, like all these little bugs will come out from underneath. Have you ever, the other day I lifted a rock outside, and then when I lifted up the rock outside when we were working on the RV, remember that story? All these worms were under the rock. So when you get called out on the weakness and they put a spotlight on it, you start to see something that perhaps you don't want to see or you've not seen. But the fact that you become peaceless and you start to get so disturbed and you even start to maybe project it, well, you're saying, I am this because you're that. Could be true. But that's not the case here. The case is, why am I feeling so angry, so upset, so insecure, so victimized by that person's comment about me? It's a sign of a weakness within myself. That means that spotlight that they offered me was my greatest gift. Because as much as they say that, and if I don't hear it, then maybe it's not true. But if I can feel it, like, yeah, maybe they're right. If you get upset and angry about it, shaken up inside, insulted, if your ego really kicks in, there's an element of great truth there. Because the weakness doesn't want you to stop feeding it. And if the weakness just becomes your nature and it's just streaming through you like a regular energy, and then the moment you identify that that's there, then it knows you're going to want to do something about removing it. You're going to want to do a self-help class. You might want to go to church, go to your mosque, go to your synagogue. You might want to pick up the Quran, the Bible, the Dharmapada, the Gita. You might want to call a friend. You might want to turn on Sister Jenna. You might want to listen to Oprah. You might want to turn to the Brahma Kumaris. You might want to do something just to get your mind straight. So what I've learned in the path of Raj Yoga meditation is that the weakness, of course, starts in the mind. And the mind has developed a particular pattern and habit of feeling a particular frequency of experience. So if my frequency of experience has been that I'm manipulative, just let's pull one out of the bag. And by thinking that I'm manipulative, I think I'm getting away with it, right? But one person comes along and calls me out with very strong conviction. I remember the case with two sisters, and when one person just comes along and just says, "You're manipulative, I see it, don't think you're playing me," it's like you jump, you get shook. And you really don't know what to do because, in a way, you know that it's true, right? So if I've been feeding that energy for a long time and getting away with it, I'm actually strengthening that weakness. But bless the soul who gives me the insight and the wake-up call to point out something that's a limitation in my personality or in my being. So they've often said in Raj Yoga, weaknesses will appear in the mind. It's an interpretation that I've gotten accustomed to over a long period of time. But it's coming from the nature of the sanskaras in the soul. It's coming from the ego, and it's coming from attachment, and it's coming from vices. It's coming from lust or greed or anger or jealousy or slothfulness, or all these energies that we haven't put enough attention on to say, this is enough. I don't want to feed this anymore. But there's something that I have learned, that if you really want to get rid of your weaknesses, don't focus on them. Focus on your strengths. And the more you focus on your strength, you will develop the courage needed to pull you through and pull you away from that pattern. Because what happens, it's like a basketball player. Remember Michael Jordan? Do you think he'd go on that court knowing what he's weak at, or do you think he knew where he could position himself on the court? Well, with Michael, he could be anywhere on the court and he would get that ball in. But anyway, like Stephen Curry has a different place. His is the three-pointer, right? But remember Steve Curry from the Golden State, I think. Please forgive me if I'm wrong, but Michael Jordan I always remember from the Chicago Bulls. But they perfected their strengths on the court. And in life, I'm asking you and I'm suggesting to you, always put yourself in positions in life where they will support your strengths. Because at the same time as you're building your strengths, your weaknesses will little by little start to get reduced, because they will no longer really be flowing through your fiber. They won't be governed. And I've often selected people and put them in particular positions where I might sense that there's a weakness in their nature, but I put them in that position so they can build a strength. Because I know if I put them in a weak area, they have to succeed. So they do build a strength. But I put people in particular areas, not necessarily identifying if they have a strength or a weakness. And I've seen them do awful in specific areas when I realize that's definitely not their strength. For example, my strength might not be in the kitchen all day long. And as much I would maybe like to do it, I might not have the strength. But put me behind a race car, and that's easy squeezy for me. I can take that car and take it down the road like it's nothing. Back in the day, at least. Now I can't. But it was easy for me because it was a strength. But put me in a kitchen to cook 10 dishes really fast, that would be maybe hard. And Santos should not say anything right now because he knows he knows I cook fast and I cook a lot of meals fast. But the point that I'm making to everyone is know what your strengths are and position yourself in life where you can feed that strength. Because it's not that you have to keep banging your head to let go of what you're weak in. But eventually your weakness will leave you when it recognizes you no longer serve it. You no longer have any interest in it because you're doing so great and so jolly on this side of the fence. So to overcome the weakness, I really recommend that you focus on where your strengths might be. Whether it's in a particular talent or skill, but more than anything else, where it's in an inner art. If you feed motives that are rooted in attachment of interpretations, ego of interpretations, where there's greed in your interpretation or motive, you're feeding that weakness, which will come up in a different way, and somebody will call you out on it. But to actually accept that the soul has the courage to pull away from that and focus on what it's good at by using the greatest power in the world, love and purity and peace, then when you keep doing everything with that motive and that energy, then you start to realize, wow, it's leaving me. All that old, negative, limited, low vibrational energy, it's leaving. So I want to play a meditation for us on courage, because it takes courage to speak up and make changes within the self. And it takes courage to acknowledge that I have enough, and I'm strong enough, and I'm good enough to push myself through. So take a deep breath, inhale and exhale, and let's amplify our courage just for a while, okay?
Courage is strength of mind, inner power, determination to get on with my life positively, unaffected by others. It enables me to progress, to begin new things, and to have achievement. To have courage, I firstly look into myself. Who am I? What is my unique role? It is that which gives me complete fulfillment and happiness. With this awareness, I gain courage to take my first step towards the new me. Away from dominating and influential people, situations, and possessions which hold me back. I am able to leave these things behind on the journey to my path of happiness in life. And with this first step, I gain confidence. Just as when a child is learning to walk, it gains courage from its first step, knowing deep within what wonders lie ahead with this newfound achievement. So too, I make a goal. I see myself ahead, happy, content, peaceful, and full of love, playing my chosen role, being true to myself. Courage drives me onward to this destination. I toss away many of the masks I have worn, playing too many unsuitable roles on the stage of life. I see only success ahead. If there are obstacles on the way, I face them with courage. I see them as beneficial. I learn from them and gain more strength, and then let them go as past. With each new achievement, I gain more confidence. I have deeper respect for myself and others. Others see my courage and determination, and it gives them strength to lead their lives true to themselves and full of qualities. I attract the same kind of people as myself, so I can be honest and free. Courage enables me to continue on undisturbed. I feel I am so strong, so brave to get on with my life. I feel like a warrior with victory in my heart, standing tall and defiant. In my incognito war, difficulties come, but against my arrows loaded with qualities and courage, they salute me and go away. I am bold, but I am also careful. I am stable with unshakable faith as I know who I am. I can face people and situations calmly and respectfully. With courage and a pure aim, there is clarity and quality in my actions and relationships. Success, victory, and happiness are guaranteed.
That was so beautiful to see, to gently rest your eyes on, and you didn't feel weak at all, did you? And didn't you feel like you were stepping into your power? Did you even have any time to feed a weakness? So when I shared earlier about the importance of remembering that a weakness comes in your mind, I'll try to break it down. You've heard of people who are afraid of small places, right? They're called claustrophobic. And it's a small space, but there might be in a big building, let's say an elevator. But there's a memory that only that soul knows, unknown to it, unconscious of it. But there is a memory recorded in the soul from the past. Maybe it left its body in a very tight room or space. Maybe it suffocated. We don't really know the story. I'm just giving you an example. But the vibration of that experience comes in the form of a thought or thoughts. And it enters the mind. And then the intellect makes the choice, or it continues to interpret, I don't like small spaces. Why? I'm uncomfortable. They make me scared. So when the soul keeps fulfilling that recording, it strengthens that weakness, because in reality, there's nothing for the soul to be afraid of in a small space. But there's something psychically recorded in the soul from a past. And it comes in the form of a thought, and the thought has convinced the master. It's dangerous to be in the small elevator, I'm telling you. So when we find ourselves struggling with a weakness, we could think of, it could be drinking, smoking, taking drugs, being in a partnership. You'll find that there's just something sitting there where you're not completely okay. There's a memory, and the thoughts are defining the memory where you're saying you make this particular choice to feed that. Okay, so you can look at a weakness as a habit, but I want you to go deeper and look at the weakness as it's coming from a thought form. And as a result of the thought form being fed, not just in this one lifetime alone, but those of the past, that it's gotten so much strength in it that you don't even know that it's happening. That's why when we interrupt that thought form with a completely different practice or pattern of thinking, you shake that up. Again, you put the spotlight on that weakness, and it's like the rock that's being lifted, and underneath it is a whole bunch of worms. It's such a good thing. It's such a good thing. Now, I know people say that sometimes your weakness can be your greatest strength. I guess on an upside down way, that if there is something that's been bothering you a lot, if you refine it, for example, peace is a strength, but when you become angry, it's a weakness. So let's say you find yourself to be a very, very, very angry person, then what do you say? Well, I think my greatest strength is really, really peace, right? You can look at it that way. That won't hurt. But as long as you recognize that you don't want to keep strengthening the weakness that, keeps creating the chaos everywhere you go. You want to be able to really focus on where your strengths are, so that the weakness no longer has any power over you, right? So it's a thought form. If you want to get rid of your weaknesses, you've got to first identify what are your strongest thoughts, how do these thoughts connect to your greatest skills and talents, and then sometimes play back what you've heard from people, but be very discerning. And the only reason why you'll accept what they say is because inside of you, you wish to be your more. And thank them. They might be right. Thank them. Because sometimes we're so attached to our own stories, we don't see ourselves as a detached observer. You can see into other people clearer when you're detached from them, versus when you live close to them, you try to even protect their weaknesses from the world because of the attachment. You will protect them as much as you can, and you need to do that at some point, but not to their detriment, right? So you have to keep focusing on the internal thought form of where your strongest thoughts can be initiated, in what setting, in what position. Where do you need to put yourself? With what kind of people do you put yourself with to keep allowing these strong thoughts to emerge from you? Stay with your fans, the people that you can feel are deeply there for you at a pure level. They will help you, but just to keep a vigilant check that you're not feeding your old thought form that is connected to, again, the old, way back in the day, previous lifetimes, old sanskaras, the anger, the lust, the greedy attachment. That's what's getting us into trouble. Okay? So let's see what my dear, wonderful, wonderful family online is saying. So Susanna, what are you saying here? I plugged into too late, but what a timing on reminding what to concentrate on, as opposed to the struggles that tend to come through themselves forward and shadow the strength that is given to me. Nice, Susanna. It sees through, though the guarantee happiness is what allows me to test the unknown. A home to go back to always, if you know what I mean. Yeah, there are times when the test comes through the portal of the weakness, because the minute you see those worms when you pick up that rock, you don't want to live in that. You see? And what happens is when the spotlight is put on that weakness, you are going to want to do something like the meditation said. You are going to have to find that courage, because you don't want to live in that muck that you're seeing inside of yourself. That's why soul consciousness, considering yourself to be a soul, considering the original religion of the soul is peace and purity, and remembrance of God, the supreme being, and being responsible for your karmas. These three aspects are so important in order to keep your focus on what's your strength. All right, so hi Bimla, Miracle Mary, yeah, warrior. That was beautiful meditation, wasn't it lovely? It was really, and the waterfall, didn't you just want to sit by there the whole night and just get your act together up here? You know, just get this beautiful spirit, okay, up here. Denise Withers, welcome my sweet sister. Om Shanti, good evening. Hope your heart is happy and okay. Denise says, sometimes it's hard telling people about something that you see is wrong, especially a boss that is messy and don't do the right thing and does things because she's the boss. Yeah, those are big ones. How I've navigated myself around those things, sometimes I'll just quietly pick up very peacefully over a period of time. When I start to sort of pick up and put things in order without any complaint, without any judgment, I've seen on some occasions it has touched their hearts, and then they start to say, oh, let me put this in order. That's one. The second thing, if it's the boss that's really messy, it depends. You have to find a new way. That's a kind of a touchy one. Like, I won't say, you're so messy. I would say, wow, that's really so creative to put it like that. Would you like if I maybe try to help? You know, there has to be kind of a tactic or some kind of a diplomacy that sometimes you play with it. But you know her better than I, and you know yourself, so you have to be mindful of how you're doing it. Hi, Elizabeth Graham Brown. Always a wonderful inspiration to have you, Betty Brown. Beautiful, beautiful. Yes, Miracle Mary, I liked sitting under the waterfall too and visualizing all thoughts that don't serve me washing out. That's perfect. Santosh, did you hear that? That wonderful video you did had Miracle Mary sitting under the water. All right, so Asmita. Being sensitive and emotional, can we label this as a weakness or a strength? Asmita, especially coming from certain cultural backgrounds, like in Indian culture, it's almost the norm and cultural to be very kind of emotional or sensitive. You know, like in Indian culture, when we meet people, we scan them up and down. After we do the Om Shanti or the hello, it's like you just know. And then you put a label on the person. Oh, I hate that. I mean, whenever I go to India, it's just, stop. Please don't scan me. You're not an MRI machine. But I would say that if the sensitivity, Asmita, hurts your feelings, it is a weakness. But your sensitivity can be a blessing, especially when it comes to yoga with God. Because when you're connecting soul to the Supreme Soul, you need that sensitivity, and you need that intuitiveness, and you need that softness in order to feel the power and the energy of God's light flowing through you. But when you feel offended or hurt, then it is a weakness. And the way to balance that out is to apply more spiritual knowledge. Find spiritual knowledge, especially what we teach. Knowledge that we offer at the Brahma Kumaris is very, very clear in making you pretty resourceful, in keeping your mind and everything strong in the midst of storms. Sometimes it'll be hard. Sometimes you'll have moments where you shake. It's not 100%, but it gets better. With each time and each test you get, you're getting stronger and stronger. Okay? All right. Thank you for that wonderful question. Hey Mercedes, ¿cómo estás? ¿Cómo estás? Shalini, what if we focus on strengths? Can weaknesses be overlooked? So I think I answered that one for you, Shalini. Hi Shobha, Om Shanti. Hey Nicole, Aditi, Kidit, Samantha, Yesvi. Om Shanti. Hi Erica. Hi Praveen. Hi Tanya. Haven't seen you on board. Nice to have you. Benaz, nice to have you. Indu, always good. Nikhil Kumar Joshi, Om Shanti. Wonderful. Blessings to everybody on today. blessings to everybody. So, Miracle Mary, my weakness is having a son who has schizophrenia in an institution. Okay. Oh, Miracle Mary, I'm so sorry to hear that. So let's reframe that for you, okay? So what you're feeling is that you feel disturbed when you know the soul that you gave birth to in this lifetime is in an institution and they're not doing so well. Let us just call everyone to pray and send our light for him right now, just for a few seconds. And that we just surround him with God's healing light and love. Your weakness isn't your son. It is the interpretation of the attachment that you think as a mother you own him. But he has come with his own blueprint of karma and his own story. And the only weakness isn't necessarily the fact that he's playing out his story in that particular capacity. The weakness is Miracle Mary thinks that she's only the mother to the soul and that she's supposed to protect him, and she couldn't protect him from this illness. So the weakness is the attachment to the narrative. Now let's reframe it and turn it around. I have given birth to this soul who has come with their own blueprint. And they are passing through me. And yes, I don't want to see him go through that. But I have to find a way in my mind to transform my thought form of what I expect or want from him and change that form of thinking into every day you send him blessings in the mornings, maybe during the day, at nights, you hover God's energy and light over him with no expectations. Like we all just held him in meditation just now. We don't want anything in return, right? No expectations. And wherever he is, he will feel that loving vibration. Now, if you're just offering it, whenever he comes in your mind, send him your blessings, not worrying, not being afraid, not wishing this wasn't the case. That's a weakness, yes, because of attachment. The attachment is the weakness, not the circumstance. The circumstance is going to play out, but it's the attachment that's the weakness. I hope you're hearing my heart tonight, because I don't want you to think that that is the weakness. It isn't. He's playing out a part, and in a unique way for himself, because he's accurately playing out the part at this particular time in his life. You can't worry. You're going to, because you know you're a soul, and you know you're playing your part as a mother, send your blessings and your good wishes instead of the worry. I hope that helped. Lecture reflection on weaknesses. Weakness, thinking about your strength is the answer. Yes. All right. I'm good that you're doing well on Facebook. All right. Hello, Facebook family. Om Shanti. Lindy, I'm not sure you're still on. I hope you got my message to Mayor Bowser today. Kathy Hughes had texted me from Radio 1 that they were doing a whole day of Mayor Bowser today. So they asked for a blessing. So I don't know if you heard it, because I didn't hear it. I think it was on Magic 103. So Lindia does a wonderful radio show called Think on These Things on Radio 1. So it's nice to have her. Are you talking about Susan's, Santosh? Is it Susan's on Facebook? Susan, what does it mean when someone blackouts from drinking and says things that aren't very nice but aren't even truthful? I would ignore it. I would absolutely ignore it. I wouldn't give it much time or day. I would ignore it. And you would need the strength within yourself to do it. It's not even worth your time or day anymore. I would ignore it. All right. All right. So thank you all. Thank you all for joining us. And it was great. It was great to have you all, and hope. I don't see Lydia's asking a question. I just see she says, glad to be here. Oh, scroll down. Let me see. Linda, I'm not seeing your point. I don't see it. Ah, okay. So, Linda, how do I get rid of the last 10% of domestic violence forgiveness? It has been a major problem for me for more than 30 years. Much of it has caused my growth. Today we are friends, but there is something still holding me. I want to let it all go. We have 3 lovely adult children. He compliments me for a job well done. That's a good one. Linda, I think the it's a great question. How do you let go of the memories, what you want to do? You want to let go of the memory of the violence that has taken place, whether it was emotional or physical. I would respond, because I know you too. You've put so much love and care in your children and your career. I think you're actually letting it go. I think the memory, when it comes back, you relive it. There's a feeling in you that maybe it has some different form of anger in it, a sense of feeling that you were victimized and not adjudicated, so to speak, in the marriage or in the relationship. But from the person that I know that you are, you have way past that. And the 10%, it's good that it's still there, because I think it will be the precursor to keep you walking with that grace and humility that you do, to teach those that are in it, to show the path, and to be able to know that a very big part of the story that you're telling in this incarnation is how to be resilient and how to overcome when it just seems like you didn't have the strength to do it. So whether it was a weakness that kept you there or a strength that kept you there, look at where you are today. And so when you go back to that memory, I think you're revisiting that memory to applaud the strength that you now have within you as a person. And I think that's the thought form you need to shift a little. So to shift the thought form by coming into the acceptance, look at the strength I've gotten from God, my resilience, my determination, my faith, what I believe is the right thing to do, then I think that's really what it is. So again, time is the greatest healer, but spiritual wisdom will heal it faster, and your private, deep, subtle relationship with the divine. So I hope that answered the question, my sweet beloved sister. How can we help a person whose weakness is telling a lie? Well, I don't want to get started on that one, Arlene. But the problem with somebody who lies, there's a really deep, deep disconnect with themselves. And the person has to do that work. There are times you can call them out on it. Might not help. There are times that you show up in a way that you will catch them red-handed. It might. But there's a third thing that I have dealt with people who are lying, is that unfortunately they've lost people's trust. And so there's like a psychic feeling that they really need to impress people or get people on their side. So I've seen that a kind of a gentle, quiet love with significance, kind of like a grandmama love, that, you know, when the grandmama love looks at you like, mm-hmm, sure, baby girl. You know, that grandma look. There's something that hits you when they look at you with that deep, silent knowing. But it has a lot of love, saying, I hope you get over yourself soon. So that's the best way, because words won't really help, not if they're in that stage. All right. Thank you. Thank you, Lindia. I hope to see you soon. I hope Radio 1 was great today. All right, so we'll close off. Thank you so much. Did everyone enjoy their session today? Give me happy faces, smiley faces. Give me a thumbs up, thumbs down, thumbs all around. All right, thank you, Louise. Thank you, Jenna, for Scotland. Asmita, I hope that was helpful. I really thought it was important for us to explore that dimension. It's a thought form. The moment you can transform your form in the way that thought is, the quicker you'll bypass the way that thought tends to hold you back and make you weak. I've seen it over and over again. All right, thank you so much, guys, for joining me and all of us. And I hope you have a really, really happy, happy night. And if you haven't seen my session on the Shift Network, Transforming Racism, I had one today with Louis Gossett where I interviewed him on eracism. So that's on the Shift Network. And also the one that I did on What's Next, the Spiritual Perspective, which was 2 days ago on the Shift Network. I did get some nice feedback that there was some nice information on that. So hopefully it'll be of use for you too in listening to those two narratives. So thanks again for joining us. Lots of love, unlimited pure feelings, pure vibrations, peace, and power, and truth. Have a good night. Om Shanti. As I sit here in quiet reflection, I'm reminded how my thoughts create my reality. I've accepted that I am what I am because of what I think. So what if for this moment I choose to let go of my various attachments to physical forms that have limited my potential and my capacity? What if